Hi everyone, this is Wayne Parry and I am in Kabul in Afghanistan. I'm staying in a very humble, secluded little guest house with not the best decor, as you can see. I've just come from outside. I'm usually dressed like this in order to blend in with the locals. Earlier this year, I was diagnosed with autism, and although that is not these days anything drastic or traumatic, it is what's led me to this part of the world, Afghanistan, and I've written all about it. I'll include the PDF here for anyone who's interested in reading it. It's called From Autism to Afghanistan. But for those of you who don't have time to read it, let me just fill you in. So, I'm from Australia, a country that currently has in between 30,000 to 45,000 stranded citizens abroad. And there is a rule in place in Australia that if you leave without an exemption and attempt to return, you will be imprisoned for 5 years. This is a democratic country. It is very unique in terms of the laws it's introduced during this pandemic. You need an exemption to leave. If you're an Australian citizen living abroad and you return, you will be trapped there. And those people also need an exemption to leave the country once again. It's very hard to get an exemption. The majority of exemptions are rejected, as was mine back in February for anyone who saw that video I posted all those months ago. So long story short, but I decided I'm going to leave anyway, and like several other Australians, I found a loophole through New Zealand, and from New Zealand I was able to get back on track in terms of what I do, and that is to travel, to work, to represent schools and colleges all over the world. Now, what I've sacrificed is the fact that I cannot return to my country, because if I do, I will be thrown in prison, like any other Australian who's done exactly what I've done. So it is very, very unique. What brings me here to Afghanistan, though, is several reasons, but because of my autism, I realize that there is a desperate need here for people to be helped, people who need to leave the country. I got here when it was very, very reasonably safe. Let's be honest, it's Afghanistan, but it's Kabul. That's the capital city. Be careful what you read on the news, by the way. Provinces are falling to the Taliban every day, but these are at the moment as we speak, so don't quote me on this in a month from now when the situation will no doubt be different. But right now, what's happening is it's a domino effect, and provinces around the country are falling into the hands of the Taliban. That's not the capital city, and it's unlikely for that to happen in the next few months. But again, this is a very precarious situation. So that may seem a little bit crazy that I'm here in one of the most dangerous countries in the world, I imagine, but I have my reasons for them, and I had to write them down, and that will be self-published when I have a little bit of time. But here on LinkedIn, I'm going to include the PDF format for you to feel free to share with everybody. Australia needs to be called out for this draconian measure. It's heartless, it's cruel. My reasons for leaving were work related, but other Australians have been separated from families now for almost 18 months. People have missed funerals, they've missed saying goodbye to loved ones with terminal illnesses. They've been separated from partners. And they've missed job opportunities, and the list goes on. It is unlike any other country I can think of except North Korea. And unfortunately, Australia does not have a Bill of Rights, which means that the United Nations is powerless to reprimand Australia for introducing these laws. The real problem in Australia is we have a very, very flawed and weak quarantine system, which means that there are constant problems with the hotel quarantine, in that people arrive, they somehow have the virus, and it spreads to workers in the hotels and then eventually into the community. As a result, the wider population, Australian citizens in general, the whole population of Australia, particularly in big cities, ends up being affected, and lockdowns continue over and over and over again. If you are in Australia, you're nodding your head right now saying, I know what you're talking about. We're in lockdown right now. Ironically, no lockdown here. As you can imagine, Afghanistan has a lot of bigger problems to worry about than a virus. Okay, so what that means is businesses are affected with these lockdowns, and this is not just specific to Australia, of course. Lockdowns are happening as we speak all over the world, and on LinkedIn, I'm linked to over 5,000 of you all over the world, and I know that you are suffering in many ways, similarly but differently, based on where you are. Here in this country, the situation is dire. I won't exaggerate. I cannot travel beyond Kabul because it is dangerous. And so I'm limited to this specific part of the city, but I don't travel around like a diplomat in a bulletproof car with a guard and five-star hotels. As you can see, not five-star this one, but that's what I do, right? So I'm here not so much in disguise so much, but very discreetly. I'm here to do a job. It's work-related. It's related to education. But while I'm here, and I'm trying to call out the Australian government for doing something that is absolutely reprehensible. It's just appalling. It's stripped away a lot of our human rights that we took for granted, and a person like me, so nomadic, incredibly nomadic, who would travel the world and wake up in different hotels constantly because of my work. And because of my autism as well, because that's how I gel, that's how I get by in life. I'm not a homely person that stays in one place. So we're all different. Our brains are wired in different ways. So to cut a long story short, read the PDF if you have time. Feel free to ask me questions as to why I'm here, and if there's anything you can help in terms of the people here in this country, because they do need help. And as we speak, I don't know the figures, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people leaving in any way they can across borders illegally, or flying out of the country legally, but trying to find a better life for themselves. And who doesn't want that? I want that, So I decided that lockdowns and paranoia over a few dozen cases of coronavirus is not for me. It's financially detrimental for me as well. I want to be where I can work, where I can function as a business person. While I'm here, though, I want to help people here, and I of course have a history and experience in teaching professionals in corporate-related courses, but also students in general. But here in Afghanistan, it has to be a bit broader than that, and trying to help people who have legitimate needs to leave this country. Now, fingers crossed I will leave, and that really does depend on the Australian government, how it handles my grievances. So it's like a divorce, what's going on between me and my country right now. I want out. I don't want it to ever see that country until it changes its international stance on the way it treats refugees, which is quite appalling. And recently, and this is the first time in living memory, I think, is how it treats its own citizens, particularly those of us who are abroad and get treated as if we're elites as if we're too good for Australia, as if it's our own fault that we're overseas and we deserve every bad thing that comes to us. So that's terribly unfair. I'm not one of the people that wants to return. Um, every other country can have me. I'm a citizen of the world. I travel extensively, and at least I did before the pandemic, and that's what I'm going to do again. I want to be a part of the world, not a part of a prison fortress. So I'm here to help Afghan people, but also to help Australians to get back home or to get away from Australia where they're missing loved ones or opportunities like my case, missing opportunities, where I just had to bite the bullet. And that's a terrible pun to use here in Kabul, Afghanistan. But the situation here is manageable right now. I am not stupid. I've traveled the world over. I've been to more dangerous and precarious places than Kabul, believe it or not. But having said that, I have to be careful in the way I dress, in the way I move about the streets, etc. But read the story if you can. Ask me anything you'd like about Afghanistan because sometimes the news is exaggerated. And I'll try to post more of these clips on my website as well. I'll leave the details down here below. All right. Speak to you again soon from Kabul in Afghanistan. Bye for now.